This subtraction tutorial is being put together for anyone who would like a little bit more practice with subtracting, particularly if you're working with decimals and renaming. So I'm going to start with my first subtraction problem. And I have 234 and 900ths, and I'm subtracting 102 and 234 thousandths. Well, the first thing I notice is I have 3 digits here, but only 2 digits here. So I need to fill in with a 0. And now I can take a look at 0 subtract 4. Well, I can't look at it and say, well, I can just reverse it and say 4 subtract 0. Subtraction is not commutative. I cannot go in either direction. But I can borrow from the 9 to make this a 10. Now I have 10 subtract 4. That I can do, and this is 6. 8 subtract 3. Well, that's going to be 5. I have another 0, and I'm looking at this 4. I can borrow 1 from the 4. And now 10 subtract 2. That's going to be 8. I'm going to bring down my decimal point. And 3 subtract 2, that's 1. 3 subtract 0, that's 3. 2 subtract 1, that's 1. Now, in order to check my work, I'm going to add the difference that I received when I subtracted and the number that I subtracted from. So, I have 4 plus 6, and that's going to be 10. 5 plus 8, 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. And I'm going to add my decimal point right here. And I have 3. 1 plus 1 is 2. And I have the same number back again that I started with. Remember, I added a 0 here so that I could subtract. So let's take a look at this next one. And I have 54 and 2 thousandths, and I'm subtracting 2 and 120 thousandths. Well, the first thing I notice is I have 2. This is larger than the 0. 2 subtract 0. That's 2. But now I have 0 subtract 2. 0 subtract 1. I need to come and borrow from the 4. Okay, this is going to become a 10. Now I can borrow 1 from there. And 10 subtract 2. That's 8. 9 subtract 1. It's also 8. Is my decimal point. 3 subtract 2, that's 1, and not subtracting 5 from anything, so I can just bring it down. And I'm going to add these numbers back up and see if I get my original number back again. 2 plus 0, that's 2. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. 1 more is 4. There. There's my decimal point. And 5. And sure enough, I've got the number back that I started with. Okay, so I'm going to have you pause the video here. I want you to try these bottom 2 and then check back in and see if the answers you get match what I'm going to be doing here. So pause the video, complete the subtraction for the last 2, and then check back in and see how you did. Okay, let's check and see how you did. I'm sure you looked at the fact that there's 2 digits after the decimal and 3 digits here. So you went ahead and added a 0. Okay, and now you're looking at 0 subtract 4. Can't do that, but I can borrow. Okay, so I'm going to rename, and now I have 10 subtract 4, which is going to be 6. But now I'm looking at, I've got a 0 and a 0, so I need to borrow again. I'm going to come over to the 7, borrow one from the 7, but now this is just like a relay where you have to pass from one to the other. You just can't throw it over someone's head. So this one that I'm borrowing, we first have to go to that 0, make it a 10, and then borrow 1, make it a 9. Now I can make this a 10. 10 subtract 3 is 7. 9 subtract 2, well, that's also 7. I'm going to bring down the decimal point. 6 subtract 2 is 4. 5 subtract 1 is also 4. And then 6, there's nothing I'm subtracting it from, so I just bring down the 6. Now, I'm going to add back these numbers here, and 4 plus 6 is 10. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 more is 11. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus the one that I carried is 10. I'm going to add that 1, bring my decimal point here. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. 4 plus 1 is 5. And I have my 6. Clear this off. And sure enough, I have the same number that I started with. Remember, we filled in with a 0 here, so you're also seeing that 0 here. And now let's check your last one and see how you did. And I'm looking at 1 subtract 0. That's easy, just 1. But now I have 2 zeros here, so I know I'm going to need to borrow. That 3 becomes a 2. And then again, I need to pass this 1 that I'm borrowing back to where I need it. So that 0, I make it a 10, borrow. So I can get that 1 over here and subtract. 10 subtract 3 is 7. 9 subtract 4 is 5. There's my decimal point. 2 subtract 7, I can't do that. But I can borrow from here. Now I have 12. 12 subtract 7, 5. 7 subtract 3, 4. And 9, there's nothing I'm subtracting the 9 from, so I'm just going to bring that down. And again, I'm going to add these numbers here to see if I get my top number back again. 0 plus 1 is 1. 7 plus 3 is 10. Carry the 1. 4 plus 5 is 9. 1 more is 10. Put my decimal point, carry the 1. 7 plus 5 is 12. 1 more is 13. 3, carry the 1. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 more is 8. And 9. So let's see if I got my original number back again. And yes, I did. So hopefully this tutorial was helpful in reminding you of what you need to do when you need to rename so that you can subtract successfully. Good job.